What happens when you fall, when the big risk you took fails, when the relationship ends, when your heart breaks, when your confidence shatters? In Rising Strong, Brené Brown tells us that falling down is an inevitable part of a wholehearted life. The question isn't if we'll fall, it's how we'll rise. Brown's research on vulnerability and courage revealed that the most resilient people, the ones who live fully, love deeply, and lead boldly, are not the ones who never fail. They're the ones who have learned to face failure with honesty, self-compassion, and curiosity. They write new endings to their stories instead of letting pain define them. The book begins with a simple truth. If you are brave enough, often enough, you will fall. When we step into the arena, whether that's love, creativity, leadership, or personal growth, failure is not a possibility. It's a certainty. But Brown argues that falling is not failure, staying down is. Rising Strong is about owning your story, reckoning with your emotions, and transforming struggle into strength. The first major lesson from Rising Strong is the reckoning. Face your emotions. Brown explains that we can't rise without acknowledging our pain. Most of us try to skip this step. We deny, numb, or ignore our emotions. But feelings don't disappear. They accumulate and drive our behavior from the shadows. The reckoning is about turning toward your emotions instead of running from them. When something goes wrong, a project collapses, a friend betrays you, or you make a mistake, stop and ask, what am I feeling? Anger, shame, fear, disappointment? Name it. Labeling emotions reduces their power. It's the first act of courage in the rising process. The second lesson is the rumble. Rewrite the story you're telling yourself. When something painful happens, our brains rush to create a story. They don't respect me. I'll never succeed. I'm not enough. These stories often come from old wounds, not facts. The problem is, once we believe them, we stop looking for the truth. Brown calls this the rumble, the messy process of questioning your stories. She says, our brains are wired for story, not accuracy. That's why the stories we invent are often filled with assumptions and fears. The rumble means being brutally honest with yourself. What story am I making up? What evidence supports it? What's missing? For example, if your boss criticizes your work, your story might be, I'm incompetent. But in the rumble, you challenge that. Maybe your boss is under pressure. Maybe it's a learning opportunity. When you rumble with your story, you stop being a victim and start being the author. The third lesson is the revolution. Write a new ending. Once you've faced your emotions and challenged your story, you can choose a different ending. Rising Strong isn't about pretending the fall didn't happen. It's about integrating the lesson. Brown calls this the revolution because when we rise after failure with self-awareness and vulnerability, we change the way we live, love, and lead. We stop avoiding pain and start learning from it. We stop letting fear write our story and start writing it ourselves. The fourth lesson is curiosity is the key to resilience. Brown found that people who rise strong are intensely curious about their feelings, about others, and about life itself. Instead of judging emotions, they explore them. They ask, what is this trying to teach me? Curiosity turns pain into data. It transforms shame into understanding. It helps us move from reaction to reflection. Brown writes, curiosity is a superpower. It's the tool that allows us to stay open long enough to learn something new. The fifth lesson is shame resilience. Shame shows up every time we fail. It whispers, you're not enough. Brown reminds us that shame thrives in secrecy and silence. The antidote is empathy and self-compassion. When we fall, the voice of shame tries to convince us that we're alone. But the truth is, everyone falls. When we share our story with someone who responds with understanding instead of judgment, shame loses its grip. We rise by being seen. The sixth lesson is owning your story. Brown writes, "When we deny our stories, they define us. When we own our stories, we get to write the ending. Many of us want transformation without vulnerability. We want to rise without falling, but that's impossible. You can't rewrite your story until you've faced it fully. Owning your story means taking radical responsibility for your experiences, the good, the bad, and the painful. It's saying, 'This happened, it hurt, but I'm still here and I'm learning.' It's not about self-blame, it's about self-empowerment." The seventh lesson is rising strong at work. Brown applies her ideas to leadership and organizational life. She explains that workplaces often punish vulnerability. Employees fear admitting mistakes, leaders fear showing uncertainty. But true innovation and trust only grow in cultures that allow people to fall and rise. She writes, "Vulnerability is the birthplace of creativity and change. Teams that embrace failure as learning rise stronger together. Great leaders model this by owning their mistakes and showing empathy toward others who stumble." The eighth lesson is rising strong in relationships. When conflict happens in relationships, it's easy to assume the worst, "they don't care," or "I'm not valued." Brown suggests using the phrase, "The story I'm telling myself is, this opens the door to vulnerability and communication. Instead of accusing or withdrawing, you invite understanding." Relationships grow stronger when both people are willing to have hard conversations. Rising strong in love means choosing connection over protection, being honest even when it's uncomfortable. The ninth lesson is the physics of vulnerability. Brown describes vulnerability as emotional exposure, risk, and uncertainty, the very things we try to avoid. But she says there's a kind of emotional physics at play. If we are brave enough, often enough, we will fall. Rising strong is the process that teaches us how to get back up. In other words, vulnerability will sometimes lead to failure, but without it, there's no growth, no love, and no innovation. Every act of courage carries the possibility of a fall, and every fall carries the potential for transformation. The 10th lesson is integrity and wholeheartedness. Rising strong is not just about resilience, it's about integrity. Integrity means choosing courage over comfort, choosing what's right over what's easy, and choosing to live according to your values even when it's hard. Wholeheartedness, Brown explains, is living with a sense of worthiness. It's understanding that failure doesn't define you, your response does. The stronger your sense of self-worth, the faster you rise. The 11th lesson is get curious about the middle. Most people want to skip from the fall straight to the comeback, but Brown emphasizes that the middle, the messy, painful part of the story, is where transformation happens. That's where the learning is. The middle is where you face your emotions, challenge your assumptions, and practice courage. If you rush through the middle, you rob yourself of the lesson. Growth isn't comfortable, but it's worth it. The 12th and final lesson is fall, feel, rise. That's the heart of the rising strong process. You will fall, everyone does. But instead of denying or numbing the pain, feel it, get curious, tell yourself the truth. Then rise stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Brown reminds us that we can't be brave without vulnerability, and we can't rise without falling. Each time we rise, we expand our capacity for courage. So how do you apply rising strong in your own life? When something goes wrong, pause. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? Then ask, what story am I telling myself? Write that story down. Then rumble with it, challenge its assumptions, look for truth, and find compassion. Finally, write a new ending, one rooted in courage, empathy, and resilience. In a world obsessed with success, rising strong is a reminder that failure is not the end. It's the beginning of wisdom. The people who live the most fulfilled lives are not those who never fall, but those who learn how to rise with grace and grit. The big takeaway from rising strong is this: you don't have to be fearless to be brave. You just have to be willing to show up, fall, and get back up again. That's what it means to live wholeheartedly. That was Rising Strong by Brené Brown, broken down into its most powerful lessons in under 12 minutes. Which part resonated most with you facing your emotions, rewriting your story, or learning to rise? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this summary, make sure to like this video, subscribe to 10-Minute Books, and ring the bell so you never miss our weekly breakdowns of life-changing books. Thanks for watching. And remember, falling doesn't define you, rising does.